Okay, so let's talk about your hand first. Uh, so I can see where you're going, and you're going in the right direction. Um, so you've already got a finger here. So what you can do. Let's have a look at your. Oh, I've clicked. Oh, where's my preferences there? There you go. What you've got here is a separate subtool for each finger. Cool, yeah. So you've got a separate subtool for each finger, and then you've got this finger here. So what you can do is keep these ones here, just like placement, but you've got this one looking pretty good so far, this finger. So you could leave them there as for now, but when you're ready, what you could do is just literally duplicate this. So you remember, you can do that quick duplication thing. So if I hold Alt and I just click the little spiral button there, just to reset the pivot point, and then if I hold Control, I can drag a finger off like that, and then I can move it into place. Now that's a duplicating the finger that you've got there, but keeping it inside the same subtool. So now you've got two fingers there. If I duplicate another one off, then you'll have three fingers. There you go. So you can do that once this finger is looking good, like good enough to merge in for the rest of the hand. So you don't need to do the same thing on these three fingers. Just make one finger, and then duplicate it essentially. But yeah, hold Control and just drag, and you duplicate a finger like that. But yeah, to reset the pivot point on this, you just hold Alt and click the little spiral. And then while you've got Alt held, you can also move it around, so you can put the pivot point like at the base of the finger, like say like there. And do whatever you want with that. So far it's looking good. So yeah, you've got everything looking good so far. I just think you just need to bring out the thumb, which you could use another finger for. You know, do that whole duplication trick, or literally duplicate it here by just hitting duplicate. Literally duplicating the finger off. Oh, duplicate the palm there. Delete. There you go. Or you can use a snake hook, so BSH, and if you look from the right angle, you can pull the thumb out like that. And that's all I'm doing. I'm just thinking of what angle the thumb's going to come out at. So I'm looking just from behind like this, and I'm just pulling out. Just pay attention to how big my cursor is as well, my brush. So if I pull that out, I can start pulling out the beginning of a thumb. Just don't make it too long, obviously, because literally, if you look at the size of a thumb, if you were to lay it flat, on my hand anyway. Some people have got long thumbs, but if I hold it flat like that, it kind of comes to the bottom of my index finger. Pointer finger, not index finger. That's index finger. Is that index? No, that's index finger. Yeah, can drag that out and then start working on it. So a couple of things you can do. So if I hide these subtools for now, I don't need them. Hey, come here. So my hands are cold. There we go. So with this finger, if you want to get the other fingers in there, you can hold Control and then kind of rotate it into place, and maybe even scale it. I wouldn't scale it at first, but I would definitely move it up slightly, because the middle finger is slightly higher than the rest of them. And then hold Control, drag the next one down, rotate, drag the last one out, rotate. Because then that gets your four fingers. But they're all inside the same subtool, and all that is just obviously pressing W, holding Control, and using the arrow just to move it, and it kind of duplicates and masks off everything it's coming from, so you're not like making a mess. Now that does give you four fingers, but all have got the same polygroups like that. Now I didn't look before. You've got these three polygroups, so I don't know if you want to keep those or not. For like sculpting purposes or whatever. I don't know if you've intentionally done that, or if that's come from like having a separate piece of geometry. Actually, yes, I can imagine it. Yeah, okay, right. So it's come from that. So then polygroups have just come from the different segments you had before. So what I was saying before as well is, if you Control W after you brought these fingers out, if you Control W, it assigns a flat polygroup over everything. But then if you want to assign a polygroup to each one individually, you then essentially mask off, say, that finger, Control W, it then assigns a new polygroup to that one. And then I'll just mask this one, polygroup, so then that's got a polygroup on it. And if I just change holding Control, just go to mask lasso there. Mask lasso. I'm just going to draw a lasso over this one. Carefully. Shaky, shaky, cold hand. There you go. And then Control W. So now I've got a different polygroup per finger. And they're all inside the same subtool. Like that. And then you can treat each one separately. Now moving them individually, if you want to actually use the move brush, so BMV, being able to move them individually with a normal move brush isn't going to work. But if you BMT, remember, for the move topological, that will move each one individually, because it treats the polygroup as like a separate object essentially. That's the move topological. But a cool little trick is if you go to any of like the scale, rotate, move buttons here, so WER, hold Control and click on one of them. Again, if it's a different polygroup, it will then mask off that one. So, like for instance, I can say, okay, I want to do a bit of initial rotation, so I can hold Control while I'm either in move, scale, or rotate. Put the pivot point, hold Alt, put the pivot point at the bottom of the finger. Rotate that into place. Release Alt. Oh, it's a bit too high. Like there. So then I can start to rotate that. Hold Control, grab that one. Do the exact same thing on this one. Move it to the knuckle, essentially. Like that. I can also scale them as well. Oh. My computer. I think my computer's actually cold. There we go. So I've just turned off symmetry there. There we go. So maybe do a slight bit of scaling, because obviously all your fingers aren't the same size. So holding Alt. All I'm doing here is literally just holding Alt and scaling. Again, press W for the move tool, hold Control, click on a finger you want to only work with. Move it to the knuckle position. Scale down a touch, maybe rotate it. Something like that. That way you kind of work with each finger. So you've got a decent finger in there already. It's just about getting into some sort of position so that when you're ready to merge them onto the hand, they're already kind of in that nice position. There's no point merging them on. Well, there's not no point, but I don't like merging them on when they're all still straight and kind of artificial looking. I like making a finger look kind of, you know, in the right direction, getting it nice and kind of, you know, in our position, and then merging it in to the palm. And then, yeah, like I said, with the thumb, if we just use a snake hook tool, you can literally just click OK on that message that comes up. You know, if you get the brush about, say, yar big, I'm going to look from just, it's kind of like at the back kind of portion of the thumb. I'm doing that because when I drag out, it's going to drag out kind of forward and diagonally because of the direction I'm looking. So I go, huh. And then I've already kind of got my thumb in there. Can dynamesh that, and that's just a case of, you know, pushing and pulling a kind of thumb shape into place. You can use the damn standard to on a low sensitivity to kind of like crease it. Oops, too strong. To crease in some of that information. So the palm of the hand like that. Palm might need to be a little bit smaller, I'd say, or the fingers might need to be bigger. Remember, your middle finger is about the same length as your hand, but Sorry, I'm itching. That's a pretty simple fix. It's not small, it's just long, I think. I think this bit here, I think this bit is maybe just a bit high. So, again, that's just a bit of a move brush thing, isn't it? Just push it back a bit. Push it back, push it back. I do myself always tend to make that section a bit too long and then regret it later on. So this is something even I can struggle with. And then I can grab the fingers, move them back. Like that. That feels a bit better. So when you've got something like that, it's just about getting the rest of the hand in there. I mean, you've got two perfectly good hands to look at for this bit, but to keep it nice and simple and just to get the forms in there, you know, like pulling up some kind of very simple knuckle, just so you got a landmark for it. And then using all like either damn standard or the standard brush BST. Pushing in slightly. Oh, maybe we need a bit more strength than that. Don't know how I'm using my mouse. I've got a bloody pen here. There you go. Like, ooh, too much. Like slightly pushing in these areas of the hand. Just at first. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect at first. It's just about getting the general form. I mean, just as a few little tweaks, that's already looking much more like a hand. But you weren't far away from this anyway. All I've really done at this point is just do a bit of movement. I think the back of the hand could be a bit bigger. Like the wrist side could be a little bit bigger. Because obviously right across the wrist, that area there, because you got all the pads of the hand and stuff, it just get a bit thicker. And of course, things won't ever look... Things might always look a little bit strange when they're not actually like in position yet. So we have just got to get up to a point where we feel like, okay, this is like a hand position now. It's good that you're making it straight as well, like, well, flat, because then it's much easier to, you know, adjust these forms at first. There we go. Because when you're happy with this, all you need to do is merge the fingers into place. Not merge the fingers into place. Merge the fingers in the palm together. So, you know, if I take that palm, merge it down, bang, and then hold Alt, move the pivot point into a better position, and then I can rotate that. Look at that, as a hand. And again, just look at your own wrist section for this bit. Like, how does a wrist transition into this? You've got similar kind of like wrist types. If you're going off that kind of more Sekka kind of body form, you've got very similar wrists. So, perfect example. And then it's just about pushing and pulling. So if you bring that over there, push that wrist up there, just small movement stuff. I notice as well, I've not merged any of these. These are in the same subtool, but I've not actually merged them together. I've not dynameshed them. I could do, and I'll have something like that. But remember, in geometry, in the Dynamesh menu, you have got groups, and if you turn that on, when you Dynamesh, it won't merge them together. It'll just merge them. It'll Dynamesh them all as separate things, but it won't actually physically make them merge together. So you can keep things separated for a while, and then when you're super confident, you can put them together when they're at a high resolution. Because obviously you want to get a bit higher than this. You kind of want to go a little bit more denser than this. So if you're at 112 there, maybe 180. Oop. maybe 220 kind of Dynamesh resolution area. But with this, with the hand in place like that, you can start to, do exactly what you've done here with the finger and just, do that with the thumb. So it feels like you've used a smooth brush or something to kind of give these really nice indents, give you the bony landmarks of the finger, which is good. So you could do something similar. That's how I like doing it. If I like use a smooth brush to almost like trick that bony landmark in there. Fatter thumb, fatter thumb, fatter thumb. Oh, make sure it's not too fat. Well, it's a little bit chubby. Let's make that thumb a little bit lesser, fatter. Push up. Just like that. And of course, I'm only working on one. I've not got another one on the other side because, just like doing your arm, you don't need to until you're done. What you could do is work on your hand, get all that looking nice, and then merge it with your arm. Start to drag the geometry from your arm over the hand. Again, make it look like they are connected, so when you kind of step back, it looks as good as possible. Because obviously, with two separate objects, you're still going to have this kind of visual separation. But sorry, I've completely lost what I was going to say then. Yeah, even when they're in the same sum tool, all like this, so you can see like these are obviously not connected because you got that big shadow line there. You've just got to remember, when you do Dynamesh these things in together, that will disappear. That's why changing the, if we go to flat color there, even in that silhouette, if that does look like it's connected, boom, there you go. You can smooth out the rest of it. Or go on something like Monster Clay where you not getting as many shadows. Well, the hand's good. So let me reopen the file and go through that again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this. And I'll go through that again. Oh, it's our chat. Change. I think it's that one. It never opens on the window that I want it to. Right, go. Whoop. Cool. So if I do all that again, so this is what you sent me. You've got separate fingers, and I don't think you need that because you've already got a decent looking finger here. So what I'm going to do is delete these 3 fingers. Unless you want to keep them working individually, but because you've got a good finger already, just use that one. And I'm going to delete. So delete, delete, delete. Yeah. Obviously make sure that you delete the right one. So then I've got this finger. This is the pointer finger. So now I want to get this pointer finger in the position of the rest of the fingers. Well, first of all, I'm just going to hold Alt, move the pivot point to the base of the knuckle, like there. Remember, Alt, you can see the little padlock open. That means that you can move the gimbal around. So with that in position, I'm happy with that. It looks like a nice, it looks like kind of where the knuckle's going to be. I'll hold Control and I'll drag while I'm holding Control because that'll give me a new finger. Hold Control, drag off a new finger again. Hold Control, drag off a new finger again. It's going to give a slight rotation. Obviously, you want to give a little bit of a gap in between each one of the fingers as well. Cool. So then that gives me 4 fingers. Obviously, these are all like the exact same size. And also they're exact same position across this way. But that's totally cool. So that's stage 1 kind of thing. Delete the 3 fingers you had there because you've got a good pointer finger. Hold Alt, position the pivot point in like a knuckle position. And then while you're holding Control, drag, and it duplicates that. But it keeps them. The reason why I like that is because it keeps it inside the same subtool. so you're not messing with loads of different subtools. Next thing, so stage 2, is just to get these in a bit more of a easier way for us to work, because now you've got the poly groups from the original 3 chunks you made before, which is cool. But if we Control W, it assigns just a blank poly group across everything. So that's good. And then all I'm going to do now is, in fact, you could actually do it while they're in this state as well, so you don't need to do that first. So if I just mask off this finger, hold Control and W, assigns a new pivot point. Poly group. Do the next one. Oh, do the next one. I'm going to change this to lasso. While I've got Control held down, I can change that to lasso, just so it's going to be a bit easy for me to grab. There we go. Control W. Next one. Make sure I've got it all. Control W. Oh, I missed a bit there. Control W. There you go. That's a poly group. And then the last one, just Control W. So remember, I'm holding Control, and this is all like your different ways you can mask. Just like in like Photoshop, you got your elliptical mask, cube mask, freeform mask, or like selection marquee tools. This is just like that. So I've got the mask lasso, just so I can draw one in. So with that now, I've got 4 different poly groups I can use. Cool. So that's stage 2. Stage 3 would then be to position and scale the fingers so they are a bit more kind of like in a proper position. So that's where we can use, just by pressing W, E or R, to be on any of these settings here. If I just hold Control and click on that, so it won't work when you're in draw mode, because holding Control goes to mask mode. So it's expecting you to mask off how you want to mask off like that. But in one of these movement controls here, movement functions, when you click on a poly group, it just wants to mask off that entire kind of chunk. So yeah, holding Control, clicking on that, I can then say, okay, poop, again, put the pivot point in the position, and then you can start to rotate these into place. Maybe that one like that. Go to the next one. So I'll just do a bunch of rotation first. Again, get this pivot point in the right direction, in the right position. Rotate a bit down. Next one. And then the last one. So remember, when I'm moving the pivot point around, I'm holding Alt and then rotate that like that. So that gives me a little bit of, whatever. Just reset that. I'm just going to move that down a little bit. I'm just going to move this one down a little bit. I'm just going to move this one up a little bit, just like that. And then I can go, now that I've positioned them and rotate them a little bit, now I can do a little bit of scaling, because like I've said before, they're all the exact same size. So I can, again, mask off this one, put the pivot point in the knuckle position. I should have done this when I had it in that position before. Then I can just scale that in a little bit. If I class this one as my biggest finger, then I just need to scale down 3 other fingers. So I'll grab this one, again, pivot point in knuckle position, scale in a touch, grab the last one, hold Control, click, hold Alt, move the pivot point into the knuckle position, and then scale in a little bit, just like that. Now, if you want to add a bit of fat to these, like fatten them up or anything like that, we can use this exact thing we were just doing. So I can say, right, I want this middle one to be a bit fatter. So while I'm doing that, hold Control and click into mask off trick with the move, scale, and rotate. With that now done, I can just go to like inflate, for instance, bin, nice low intensity, nice big size, and I can just kind of like click to make that one a little bit bigger, and then hold Control, click that one back to the move. I can just fatten that one up a little bit. you know, because then your finger's in place. So that's doing the fingers. So that is, what's that? Step 3, I think we're on. Well, I think I said, didn't I? I've lost my steps. One thing to address is, just like I said before, the length of the whole palm seems a bit long. So stage 3.5, let's call it 4, would be maybe just to shorten this back a little bit, pull it back a little bit, because I'm looking to this bit here, and imagine obviously that's the inside crook of the thumb, and that's where my knuckle is there. So that distance isn't that big. Like I said, this is an issue I have all the time. I always forget about that bit, like that, and then I can just grab the fingers all together, no masking, just move them back like that. Like that. There we go. So the step, let's call it step 4. What I can do now is just add a bit more information in for the palm of the hand. Not a lot though. So I do want to make the back of the palm a bit bigger, just a touch, and then maybe bring this middle bit at the top here up a little bit, push this down a little bit. So a lot of the information you've already got in your hand is there. You know, you got the slight dip as it comes out to your little finger knuckle area, which is good. Obviously your thumb's not in there, so we can be SH. And I'm going to look at the back of the palm like this and just drag down. Thumb. Obviously I just need to make it less fatter. And however you did this knuckle stuff here, well, you might have done that when they were separate meshes. Obviously the thumb is one mesh. If you're doing this method of snake hooking it out, the thumb is connected to the palm, but I think it is a good idea just to get a little bit of that knuckle information in there. Just a touch. You know, something like that. Again, because if I stand back, turn the polygroup off, if I stand back and do that, that's a hand. That's a hand right there. So you're steps away from getting to this point. And then if you're happy with that, what I would do is merge down your palm onto your fingers. So merge down. Just make sure not to dynamesh anything. Or if you are going to dynamesh, go to your dynamesh menu, geometry dynamesh, and just make sure groups is turned on so that you're still keeping these as separate elements. They'll still move around together. It's just the dynamesh isn't going to affect them, because then you can get your hand in a, you know, you can scale your hand or whatever, move your hand, you know, and then just like you do with everything, you know, you'd pull your wrist, you pull your hand just to make it look like so it's in when it's in silhouette. You know, obviously that no one's got a big lump on the palm there, but come back. Just a bit of adjusting. And then if we look back at that flat cut, look at that. And obviously when you do dynamesh everything together, you're dynameshing at something maybe 240 kind of dynamesh resolution. You can just smooth all that information out. And then sculpt in any nice transitional, you know, like maybe the not the collarbone, wrist bone, ulnar, any kind of like, you know, underneath the wrist information you might want to put in there, because then it's all there. You're interacting with one big mesh. But obviously to do that, you'd have to turn off that groups into dynamesh. So yeah, you've actually very, very close there with the hands, and they're looking pretty good. Oh yeah, one thing I've forgot to do. Oopsie. I will do that little masking trick. Is just put in a little bit, just some information, just to communicate, you know, the ridges in between the fingers, a little bit knuckle information, not much. You don't want to do too much with this. It's mainly just there to, you know, help visualize all that stuff. Yeah, like that. A bit lumpy on there. A bit lumpy there. Yeah. And then obviously when you dynamesh all that together, you can blend it in, and it's all good. And the last thing I'm going to look at is your feet. Now you're saying you were struggling with your feet. Ooh. So I can see some bits where. Let's see if I can roll back the history. Okay, so moving it down. Okay, good. Yep. Okay, so you're taking away information here. Oh, your feet are backwards. Oh, no, yeah, there you fix it. So you would when you would trim dynamic in, flattening off these areas on the side here, you had the right thing in mind. Obviously, the feet are a bit the wrong way because it looks like the big toes on the outside. But if we just push, push and pull that back like that. Sped up. Let's just lower that bit. You've got a big fatty wodge on the back here. I don't know if that's from what I did before, if I neglected it, or if that's something that you've got in there, but just bring back that, pushing that fatty wedge on the inside of the the outside of the foot, not the inside. No, it's on the inside. Yeah. So on the foot, it's not like a perfect arch like that, because you've got this bone, like a tendon or something, which runs down like that here. So I always make my feet like a little bit taller there and flatter on the outside there. So almost like a little bit like a hand. It all kind of like starts to scoop down a little bit towards the finger, towards the little finger. In this case, the little toe. Underside looks fine. Oh, my camera, please. Oh my god, my camera. There we go. There we go. Oh. Technical difficulties. There we go. Right. So underneath, it looks fine. Again, I'll just fix up what I did before. But no, you got the right kind of idea. You know, the inside tread. The heel is always smaller than you think it is as well. You know, if you do that, I think me and both, you know, we're old enough to remember this trick. You heat up the glass and you kind of stamp on it like that. It looks like a footprint. But that bit here is essentially just your heel. It's the same kind of shape. You got that little. This is, you know, if that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, ignore it. It's more anecdotal, if anything. That. Pardon me. Foot size looks fine. Foot size looks fine. And I'm totally cool with feet being left like this. If you did want to get some toe information on there, get this shape in there first of all. And then you had it right before. Just use like the damn standard, but you might as well take it all the way around. You know, like that. And if anything, I just leave like a big toe, and then texture on the toe information there, because feet are a real problem area. Toes are a real problem area, I should say, because they are fingers, but because they're smushed together, we can't treat them the same way we treat fingers, because we can't exactly join them to the main body of the foot, but then not have them dynamesh into each other. So we've got to do stupid stuff with feet. That's why I didn't really go into that That's like if you want to be a character artist, we'll go into that, like a 3D characterized. Well, you know, something like that is perfectly fine. We're also, with this foot at its current density, it's not really got the bandwidth to get much information with the toes. So, you know, if you did want to get some toe information in there, you'd wait until it's higher resolution, then put it in there. But I really wouldn't worry. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about with the angle of the foot. This tendon here that goes down here is the highest point, and then it slides down. Kind of see the plane change there. And the ankles, I just, there you go. There you go. That's all ankles are really, it's just bones protruding. So if we look from the back here, I've got kind of crazy arches. So I am just going to pull the back. I'm going to try and straighten this. Get the tendon, the Achilles tendon in there a little bit. But I'm just going to straighten the back of that heel because that was all kind of off to one side like that. Which feet a little bit are tilted, but it's a little bit straight like that. Oh, I almost. So I really like thin ankles on characters. I like big feet and small ankles and big feet. I nearly went, but this was realism, and this is more like a realistic proportion. I nearly did an oopsie then and told you to do something not right. Legs. I think we just need to pull some stuff out really. So slightly pull out the interior and exterior calf muscles from the front. You've got that in there a little bit, yeah. Oh shit, there we go. Intensity. Oh, my hands are too cold for this. Like that. I've done it again. I've made him do. Yeah. Yeah. Because then with the arm, my trick with arms is never to actually go in there with sculpting tools. It's to go in there with the inflate brush. So you can see here the shoulder's obviously really small. But if we, on a low sensitivity, if we just gradually puff it up, like that, just a touch, and then same for the forearm here, if we just touch it with a bit of inflate, let's move it off a little bit, move it off a little bit, touch it with a bit of inflate, just to get some shape in there, because then I can use sculpting brushes or move brushes mostly just to kind of, you know, get the shape in there. Get that kind of deltoid-y kind of shape going. Oh, that's too... Oh. Just gonna add a bit of mass there. You know, it's just it's subtle shapes with bodies. A lot of it is just like the subtle angles that I think we all not ignore, but we don't consciously notice. Now, what I like doing with the arms to body connection is I don't like personally I don't like having the arm wrap over the body. I like having the body wrap over the arm and the shoulder. So I treat this area like what you've got here, this little like section. I like treating this as the deltoid. So I'm going to kind of produce like a little bit of a deltoid there, which makes me think this is maybe a little bit too off to the side. So bring it in a touch. Then we get the hand. Bring that in a touch. There we go. So personally, I like, yeah, using the body to produce that deltoid. I think it's because it's the connection between like the shoulder the deltoid and the pectoral, and it's called arm section. Makes more sense as the shoulder's connected to the body rather than the shoulder's connected to the arm. The arm kind of clicks in under the body, is what I envision it as. I'm just moving around. Like that. Again, you're not doing like Anthony or anyone who's like super shredded with loads of cut muscles. You're doing Sekka and she's super soft. All you really need here is just to make sure that, you know, the transition of the pectoral and the deltoid, you know, makes sense. And the transition from the back of the deltoid, posterior deltoid, makes sense joining the back. Yeah. So leave it on that one because that's 40 minutes. That.